All right. Part 5, building the log cabin floor and deck. Right? So I went over the whole deck with y'all already. The deck is all square. I wanted my decking boards to stay square. Ended up with a gap at either side to keep it square. We decided that we're going to take cherry wood with the bark still on it, which is this, what you're looking at here. I have a bunch more of it on the property. It's very pretty. And I'm just going to trim it. Cut a stick, screw it in on either side. It'll look really nice. I'll do the same thing for the front where that gap is there. For the floor, I went ahead and took my first full sheet of plywood, smushed it in and left as little gap under here as possible, screwed it down. Being perfectly square didn't matter with the plywood as much because it's all going to get filled in with more plywood. If I have to make my last few cuts of plywood at an angle, no big deal. So I put down my first 2 full sheets of plywood. Made sure everything was 16 on center. Snapped a chalk line and made marks with a pencil along the chalk line, marking every 6 inches. So all the screws are going straight into the middle of the joists, and they're every 6 inches. I like to overbuild things. Over here on the edge, that gap is 16 on center. So the screws went in and at a slight angle and went straight into the joists below it. Then I went ahead and I cut this last piece, make sure it stayed flat. By flat, I mean it wasn't, getting pushed up on a log, getting it pushed up. Stayed flat, minimize the gap as much as possible. There was no good solution about these gaps. I called people, I asked people, and they said you just got to build your floor and deal with it afterwards, which is totally fine. We don't even have all that much gap in there. So what we'll do is we'll fill it with spray foam insulation just so air and bugs aren't getting into the cabin. And then I'll take cherry sticks and I'll trim it all up and make it look nice. I thought about taking a section of a log and quartering it or cutting it in half and trimming it like that, but unless you were scribed it and you're a master craftsman who's really, really good at finish and detail and trim work, even a professional trim worker probably wouldn't even be able to do it very well without any gap at all. But with a round stick, you just screw it straight down. It's going to look beautiful. And we used 2x4s. I blocked I put blocking in between them all every 3 to 4 feet or more. Some of them every 2 feet from each other. On the ends, they certainly are. And this is 3/4 inch plywood. In the future, since I only needed 3 sheets of plywood, I would have spent $60 extra to get birch high quality plywood instead of normal plywood. But that's a learning lesson for the future. And then let's see. Right? So I did the deck floor and the interior subfloor completely separate. And we ended up with a slight sag at either end here. So I just put in a ton of blocking and extra decking board that was cut off as well, and put in just a ton of blocking there. And there's barely any sag there now. So what we'll do is when the cabin is done being built and give it a little while and everything settles, is we'll go ahead and we'll put in an extra pier right there to support it. And I have barely a sag right here. I'm told that if I double up that 2x4 back there, then that'll take care of that sag, or I could just add another pier right there. And that is the end of a cabin subfloor. I know almost nobody goes over this in entirety on YouTube. I strove to do that. Please let me know if you have any questions.